So, welcome everyone to the Strategic Foresight workshop. I'm very excited to have you here. My name is Yasmin and I'm going to be your host. And this session is going to be facilitated and presented by Arsene Ngombe, who's the CEO of RIASA. And just the topic that we're going to be covering today is how Foresight can be helpful in navigating the cost of work crisis for organizations in a rapidly evolving world. This is based on the topics that we covered last month, which was futures and foresights, and this is the more practical, hands-on perspective on how you can use those topics to challenges in real-world scenarios. And this is the topic that we're going to be covering today. So before we get started, I would invite you to be here on the Miro board for just 2 minutes with me, and we can start with an icebreaker. So let us know where you're from by adding your favorite food in the sticky notes below. So for you to get familiar with the Miro board as well, in this link that I sent on the chat, you can find me here in these sticky notes, and you can just select, double click, and write the favorite food from the place you're from. And we need to guess, but it's going to be good for you to get familiar with the Miro board. So I'm going to put the link again. Can you see my screen well? Yes. Cool. I can see some cursors here. Okay, we have, well, pasta. Pasta must be
Italian.
Italy. It's hope that's accurate enough for it to get started. The other ones, I don't know. Mufumba.
Mm.
I actually haven't heard of it.
Yeah, that's an African dish.
Oh, okay.
It's a sort of a vegetable.
Interesting. We have Madura.
Yeah, that's Mopani worms. That's me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Worms.
Yes, worms are my favorite.
Oh,
The best protein source.
okay. I need to believe in that, because I haven't had worms before. So yeah.
Okay, come to Africa, Yasmin.
Yes. I need to. We have grilled fish served with mafumba and chikange.
Chikwang.
Chikwang. Fumbo, that's the same thing.
Ah, okay. And we have tamales. Tamales, I haven't heard of yet.
Yeah, me too.
They're Mexican. They're corn, like a corn masa, like a corn. I guess you can't really use like a corn, something between like a bread and like a thicker.
Okay.
And inside you can have like cheese or chicken or pork or beans or yeah, lots of different types. And they're wrapped in a corn husk, like a corn leaf, and steamed.
Wow.
Yeah, they're very good. They're my favorite. Only during winter time.
I'm hungry now, everyone. Let's get started before I get carried away. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you. Thank you for filling up some of the sticky notes. So quickly, the agenda today is this 5-minute welcome. Then I'm going to pass to Arsene so we can go through an introduction to strategic foresight. Then the practice or in the workshop, which is going to take 45 minutes. And then the last 10 minutes for us to wrap up and see what comes next. Okay. And some housekeeping for us to get on the same page about how this is going to work. This session is being recorded and is going to be available afterwards in the Riasa YouTube channel, which I'm going to share the link with you afterwards. We have a chat function that is going to be available throughout the session. You can always raise your hand if you would like to address any topics or comments or anything. But otherwise, if you're not speaking, I would recommend you to be on mute so we can all have a good experience of this session. Okay. But without further ado, I would pass it over to Arsene so we can start with our workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. I'll just turn on my camera now. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Really excited to have you here for the session that we will be exploring what the strategic foresight is a workshop. But what I have to mention that we going to focus more on organizations. So we're looking at strategic foresight for organizations, and the choice on that was because of two reasons. The first reason is we wanted to put context into it because we know that many people are or have already shared so much about this topic, and there's a lot of content out there. In context, we thought would be something good to do. The second point is why organizations, foresight for organizations, why we thought we should do it for organizations, because foresight is a good tool that help us understand or imagine or explore different scenarios. And it's being more and more being used by organizations as part of their strategies, simply because the world that we live in is filled with complexity right now and uncertainties. And for these reasons, organizations are increasingly turning to strategic foresight to better navigate the future. But let's start by saying what it is. Strategic foresight, simply put, is about looking ahead and staying prepared. It's an approach that helps us spot new trends on the horizon, anticipate challenges before they arise, and explore different future possibilities. When to use foresight? Strategic foresight can be applied in numerous contexts, from personal career development to organizational strategy, or even large-scale community-based participatory efforts. Foresight can really help fuel our decision-making. And when should we use it? It can be used on a personal level, as I said. For organizations, it helps leaders to think proactively, inform their decisions, but more importantly, spark innovation and come up with strategies for navigating uncertainties. How to use it, I will talk a little bit about it shortly, but let me just rush quickly to speak about why to use it. As I said, because the world is evolving, it's rapidly evolving, and organizations need to adapt rapidly also. Strategic foresight helps improve our capacity to make intentional adjustments in anticipation to the change and create more flexibility in the future, so to become a bit adaptive, so to say. So as organizations grow to unpredicted challenges, they also need to be resilient. And strategic foresight gives them the ability to bounce back to a more positive state after going through difficulties. We saw it during COVID time. And this is done through a deep scanning process of strength. I will explain when I get to that stage. And also think of how to use that information now that you get from the environmental scanning process to refine their existing strategies. I mean, when I say they, I mean organizations. And when we talk about strategic foresight for transformation, we simply means the ability to intentionally make generative changes that challenge the existing systems, be it within the organization or even the structure, the way we operate as organizations, but behavior, because organizations are also made up of people, challenge the mindset to create something qualitatively different. So it's really about challenging the status quo and finding ways to collaborate with people that are innovative thinkers to disrupt the old way of doing things. Before I move on, I think we're in the last session, Yasmin spoke about this concept, and I know we hear more often about other concepts that are linked to strategic foresight itself, future studies. So future studies and foresight form part of the futures thinking. And future studies is the study of possible, probable, and preferred futures, as well as the myth and the worldview that underlie these futures. Then foresight is about using now the tools of that study, because it's more academic. How do you use those tools from the future studies to address specific challenges that companies are facing or even organizations? Future studies, as I said, is more of academic disciplines, where strategic foresight focuses more on management. It's being used as a tool to think and think of different scenarios and all that. So now I'll talk about the process that we use for strategic foresight. This is a process that we developed from growing from the systems change framework, but adapted a little bit because we incorporated the framework from the TFX. In the previous slide, I did talk about how to use strategic foresight. I didn't. I just mentioned I will talk about it, but I knew I was going to cover it here. So I thought it would be good for me to just pack it and come talk about it here. So as you see, there are 4 different stages that we use for strategic foresight. We start with discover, the first stage, and then there is explore phase, then there is map and create. Starting with stage 1, discover. This is really about when you do foresight, you need to do it from a space where you understand that you as a person might be influenced by certain belief, the way you think. You have, most of us, we often have these cognitive biases. And what emerge more often is the fact that the most difficult task of people that are working with strategic foresight is really to be able to facilitate a conversation of helping people to think of the future in new ways, because we all have these pre-existing assumptions or biases. And I like this quote by Pierre Walk, one of the pioneers of strategic foresight. He came up with the concept of re-perception, which suggests that people should really think of the world and the future in a new way, or in a new way and different way. This is why we start with this process of discovering, where we get people to know their biases, challenge those assumptions, because they influence our reasoning and our ability to imagine alternative futures. The tool that I personally prefer to use in this stage, I mean, there are various tools that people use in this stage. The one that I use often is the Pollack game. And most people also use the ladder of inference. Some people use the causal layer analysis. We're not going to go through that now, because as I said, doing strategic foresight is a whole process. So if you do it with an organization, you won't do it in 1 hour, 30 minutes like we're doing now. So you have to have stages. And in those stages, you can use multiple tools. So moving on to the second stage. So once we have addressed our ability to accept new information, we can now begin to scan external environments for trends and emerging issues that shape the future of our organization or even our strategy, and the effort that we do as an organization toward driving a particular change. So that's what we call, in a way, environmental scanning. And some people speak about scanning for trends. And there are various multiple tools that are used here. You've got tools such as the steeple analysis. We've got environmental scanning, sense making, a really variety of tools that you can actually design as a whole workshop in there to get people to think and explore scenarios. Explore, understand trends, identify and understand trends. But I will talk about it as I move, because what I'm going to do is I will take these 4 stages, I'll break them into sections and unpack a little bit before we get to do the exercise. The third phase is now where we start mapping. So stage 3 is about mapping alternative features. So by then you will already have done your environmental scanning, you've already identified the different trends that exist there, weak signals, in terms of the organizational strategies or vision. And then now you use that information now to start mapping alternative features. The goal of strategic foresight, I think something important that I have to talk about here in this particular stage, is not to predict the future, but to map out the perspective of many different futures and use those perspectives to prepare for a future that will be different from today. And this stage really involves creating narratives around future possibilities to enable an organization to assess their current strategies and identify new possibilities and challenges, and challenge the assumptions that they might have on a particular topic or area of work by exploring a range of probable and plausible, but also possible and preferred features. Now more and more people have been talking about provocative features, because that's the case, that's the pace where you now start bringing your people that are doing CFI to try and imagine features that we don't necessarily see currently. And the tools that we use in this stage are like Futures Wheel, which is a tool that we'll be using for these sessions. And I hope more people will be able to join us before then, when we get to that stage, so that we can have more input and it can look quite exciting. And once you've done the mapping stage, the following and the last stage is like, you then start designing new strategies. For the purpose of this workshop, we won't touch on this section, because this is now like your strategy. This is now about taking the multiple features that you have created with the information from the trend or from the scanning phase, and now start thinking of strategies that you can use now, or maybe align existing strategies to that. You refine the existing ones, but also integrate them into plans for implementation. And you keep on doing that as an organization. You keep on doing that and reflecting as you go. So the value, as you can see from this stage, is a value of strategic foresight. It really lies in using future to allow us to broaden our views and challenge our assumptions, the way we think, so that we can be able to make better decisions that will shape the future that we want to create. So as I said, I will touch on those different stages, but I won't go too much into detail. I'll just pick on a few things just to give more sense on the whole process, or how we do this foresight. So I will start with discover stage that is where we spoke about cognitive biases. I would like to take this opportunity to share some of those biases that we may have as human that we might not be aware of it. Just talk about it and also show how they may affect the way we think and decide, especially if we are in a position of making decisions in an organization. Just to quickly summarize, so if as you can read from the screen, if you are a part of the decision making in an organization, and if you in your thought process believe that change is bad for the business, just know that you might be predisposed to the status quo bias, and this may lead you to ignore the fact because of course you are not open to alternative ideas, and that's how we feel trapped by our way of thinking. And but if you feel like you have a tendency to always look for ways to interpret information in a way that justify your existing beliefs, then you are likely suffering from confirmation bias. This can be extremely strong, especially if it's regarding an issue that you as a decision maker are emotionally attached to. And we've seen that mostly, and that's how it influences our decision. But there is also optimism bias. That's when you overestimate the likelihood of a positive income, or the expert bias, where you are not open to see or able to see a solution when it's not within your framework or the framework of your thinking or the way you were taught to think as an expert. That's a problem that we all suffer from. So, and there is the other one also that is called the group think bias, and this is when there is lack of diversity, and this is the big problem in most organizations now, where there is just a small group of people that decide on what's need to be done and leaving out multiple perspectives. And that is very dangerous. And strategic foresight really helps us to challenge those mental models, the way we think. So as I was saying, what we do, we use multiple tools to really help us bring out those things and put ourselves in a position where you're looking at yourself as in the mirror and reflect and make informed decisions as to how to think on how to make decisions that can influence your future. So moving on to the explore, that was the discover phase. Moving on to the explore phase, I would like to start by emphasizing that environmental or horizon scanning is an important factor of strategic foresight. I spoke about it initially when I was talking about the 4 stages. It's important because it allows us to explore and interpret both internal and external environments in order to better understand how emerging issues affect us in the future, or they will affect us in the future. Horizon scanning is conducted in across 3 environments of foresight, as you can see from this the slides. We've got the macro, we've got meta, and micro level or environment. So when you do foresight, it's recommended to begin with the macro or external environment where drivers of change first emerge. So when you start exploring trend in the macro environment, it helps us to ensure that we do not only focus on where our expertise lies as an organization and ignore the changes originating from outside our industry or our organizations. That's what we call scanning from outside. So you're scanning from an outside space. And to do that, we have to identify the trend from the steep categories, which like a steep, like social, technical, technological, so economic, environmental, and political categories of factors. When you think of social factors or drivers of change, now you think of things such as, or trends related to demographic, or if you're a business that sells certain products, you think of behavior, consumer behaviors. So technological trends that include factors like technological advancement, how the advancement of technology is actually influencing the nature of your work or in the current industry, etc. It also could We could also think beyond the product itself. If you're an organization that's like work on a product or sell certain products, so think beyond that and think about anything that is affecting the learning, for example, as an organization, or development, or even transformation, or even innovation. Now more and more people are allowing that space for innovation to emerge in the organization. And you also have economic drivers, and that could include trends related to value generation or exchange, especially if you're working in a business. Here we can think about factors like interest rate, tax, job availabilities for other organizations, because it has to do with skills and stuff like that. And even the ecosystem within which the organization is operating. And then we have environmental trends, and that could include the natural element, like depends, like water, but it also include stuff such as built space or workplace, for example, or virtual or digital environment, because now the type of work, the way people are working is evolving and is changing. So we need to be able to be looking at those things. And when we think of political trends, that includes like mostly around policies, and you can go also a step further to explore group rights. You explore also financial markets and how that's affecting. You're looking at trade, government regulation, and so on and so forth. So that's at the macro level, and that's how you use the steep factors or categories to do your scanning. So besides the macro environment, scanning also look at the meta or industry environment, which in this context or in the context of an organization will include factors such as competitors, as you see on the screen. If you're a business, you think of customers, employees, as an organization, or even other key stakeholders. So horizon scanning in strategic foresight does not initially focus on the competitive intelligence. That's something very important to speak about. Or consumer insights is inside space, but also at the same time, it does not completely ignore that. Simply because most organizations already have processes and team in place that will be capturing consumers' insight, especially if you're a business, and conduct competitive analysis. That is an activity that is part of the organization. But now environmental scanning serves as a bridge to the future, whereas competitive intelligence benchmarks the here and now. As we all know, like a consumer insights tells us about how people behave in the present, whereas environmental scanning looks for signal as to how they will behave in the future. In fact, many organizations begin their future journey by layering strategic foresight into the existing plan or existing effort that they are doing. So that's the second level. And now at the center, we have the micro or organizational environment. And this represents your organization, or even the focal issue, a specific issue that you are exploring as you're doing your scanning. A focal issue is a decision or a question that is critical to the future of your organization right now. I mean, you will see it when we do our exercise. Focal issues that are most relevant for strategic foresight display the characteristic of such as long-term in nature. You'll see that there will be long-term kind of intervention. Also, they will explore external environment influence, how that the external environment is influencing, and they are also very crucial to the organization. So we've covered the three environment of foresight. Now let's go look at the three ways of scanning, of doing environmental scanning. Again, here we've got three ways to explore the external environment, as you see on the slide. The first one is when we scan to identify trends. And this is where you scan broadly across the STEEP framework, as I said, and view change from an external perspective. I think I already spoke about that. And this is, we call it also scanning from the point of manifestation. It's about setting aside your organization's current concern and the obvious industry issues and purposefully explore other industries and discipline and subject matters so that you can be able to situate yourself as you craft your future. The second way of scanning is to find values. And here it's also known as scanning from the point of origin. The trend emerge as a result of a shift in societal values. So once we've discovered trends across the steep categories, you can begin to ask why, as you see on the slide. So the trend focuses on the what question, but scanning, when you scan for value, you're looking at the why. Why do these trends exist in the first place? And when we discover the values that are underwriting our present trends, then we begin to understand their impact on human, while also gaining insight into what new beliefs are arising and how they will result in alternative futures. A good example is how now you will see this, our view on money or even regional economy are changing. I mean, that's becoming more often in the African region, even I believe in the Western region as well. The global finance problem have shaped how we think about money, but we are also seeing shift toward sharing, open source design, and community collaboration. So these new ways of working together are changing how we buy and how we sell services and how we think about wealth. So value not only shape the trends we see today, but they also drive us toward future changes. So when we scan to find trends, we use the what question, and value is the why, as I said. The third one, the third aspect is scanning from the point of impact. Understanding where a trend shows up is important, but it's not the same as using foresight to imagine what happened next. So to look ahead, we need to analyze the trends point of impact by asking key questions about potential effect, because this is really about the ripple effect. It's like throwing a stone into water. You see the way, the ripple effect is expanding. Same with actions as well. This approach is similar to the STEEP framework. It helps us consider a broad range of possibilities. Here, instead of just focusing on the current trend, it's crucial to explore their implications. So unlike trend, which show what is happening now, implication is more like, it helps us think about what could happen next, considering both either from positive or negative outcomes. So that impact is mostly an outcome kind of thing. Yeah, so that's what I can say. A good analysis of trends life cycle, it's really helps us understand that, scanning from point of origin, but also identify where value shifts begin and even before it becomes the mainstream. So if you only track trends after they are widely recognized, it's often too late to innovate and compete. And that's the mistake that most organizations are doing now. So what I'm trying to say here is when you do scanning, you have to combine the three. You scan for values and cultural changes that will help us also see weak signals where they are emerging. And then you use that now to refine your strategies and organization. Now, and I think this is going to be the last slide before we do the work on our Miro board. At this stage, we are already touching on the phase 3, which is now mapping. Remember, we've covered the discover, where we spoke about the cognitive biases and where we explain how it's important for us to know it. Then we talk about the environment, the different environment. And then we spoke about ways of scanning. Those ones were part of scanning. So as I said in the beginning, once you've done your scanning, now you start mapping. This is really about mapping alternative features. And this is where you do your scenario planning. And to do that, you need to start by defining your focal issue or the question that you want to address. And you will see that when we do our exercise now. So you plan your scenario by identifying the driving forces. And what is driving force? Driving force is actually the force of change. Those are those forces that repeat themselves, lasting and consistent phenomena that we observe in the external environment in the present, but that have a potential impact to change in the future. They have to point, the driving of change, when you're looking at driving of change, you have to think in a way of the future, like they have to point toward it, an outcome in the future, if I can put it like that. So in real life, there might be a bunch of different scenario or potential scenario. We don't want to pull all our egg into one basket, as I've been saying. So because we are not good at predicting, nobody can really predict the future. What we want to do is to anticipate. That's what we do with Foresight. Anticipate a couple of different alternatives in a range of potential scenarios and look at the implication. And that's where you can be using the driving forces to identify those. So once you identify the driving force, then you look at, you identify the uncertainties. And then you develop, you move to the stage now of developing scenarios and implication and path, so that the process, because the last phase is really about taking whatever that you develop based on the scenario and adjust it with your strategies for implementation, which is the last phase. So that's in a way, in summary, the whole process of doing a strategic foresight. I'm not sure now if there is any questions before we move to our exercise. No questions. I actually wanted that. Thank you.
I also have a few people who joined when you had already started the presentation. I'm sure they might have questions, but not knowing where to start from.
Yeah. Cool. So I think I've explained the whole process. Now we're going to move to do the practical stuff as we agree. So what I'm going to ask you, maybe I'll ask Yasmin or Linda to just drop the link, my robot, especially for those who just joined now, so we can go do this exercise. So what we're going to do now, we're going to grab sticky notes from the corner here and start posting our ideas. We're going to try and identify the emerging trends and challenges related to the cost of returning to work. We selected this topic because it's created a big debate when COVID came. I mean, people adjusted to a certain way of working, and organizations had to adopt different strategies to accommodate everybody. So we want to use that example to try and map out those trends, and maybe go deeper down to try and understand the effect of those trends, the way I was explaining earlier on how you scan. So I put a guiding question here for you and for all of us to use. And the question is, we want to identify the factors that are contributing to the cost of a work crisis. But before I go there, maybe let me just define this whole concept, because remember I was talking about the process of doing scenario planning. You start by defining your focal issue. So like the topic that we selected, or the key thing that we're looking at today is the cost of work crisis. I'm just putting a decision here just so that as we start putting our ideas, we can always come back here and refer. I do that a lot. Come back and just refresh my mind. What is it? It's referred to the increasing financial, time, and energy related burden that employees face when returning to traditional office environment, especially after the widespread adoption of a remote and hybrid work model. So initially we were all working in the office. Now things change. So as if we have to go back there now, if we have to go back to the traditional way, we have to think of those implications, what it will mean. And what it implies is as workers are required to return to physical office, they encounter additional costs such as like commuting, you know, childcare and so on, so on, so on. Yeah. So our reflection is going to be based on that. You've got the board, you can always come and read the definition. So I'm going to invite you to start putting your ideas here. Let's just throw some of the trends that we see. And the question here is, we need, if you can think about it from the perspective of the employee and from the perspective of the employer. Yeah. Guys, so there is one already: increased cost of time. Increased cost of time. Increased cost and time. Increased cost and time of commuting. Sorry. Yeah. What are some of those things that we can think about when we, what are those factors that we can think that can contribute to the cost of work crisis? So yeah, let's think about it from the employee perspective and from the employer.
So how much time, Arsene, in this exercise, more or
We
less?
can do 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Well, I just thought this is, you know, like this is, I mean, we talk about it now, more and more people are talking about it. These are things that we are all facing in our workplace. Like if you have to go back to work the way we used to work in a traditional way. So what are those factors that can contribute to those problems? And we'll pick one, and then we move to go and unpack it a little bit with one of the features too. It's called the features. Longer working hours. Wow, that's interesting. That's for the employee, longer working hours. So this means when low productivity. And please feel free to just expand a bit on your thoughts as you write them. So you can unmute yourself and share your thoughts. Or maybe try and expand for everybody to get a sense of what you're trying to communicate. Low productivity. Time committing takes away from cooking. Yeah, like that. Self-care, childcare, yeah, that's true. If children go to childcare, it can be expensive to pay for. Yeah. Clothing costs might go up if there is a need to dress up. Yeah, that's true. Traveling time. Imbalance between work and life.
I included frustration on the part of employees.
Perfect. Do you want to share more about it?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you want to expand a bit on that? Okay, I don't know if you can. Okay. Any thoughts about employer?
Shall we add 2 more minutes for people to think about employers?
Yeah, maybe let's add 2 more minutes. Thanks, Yasmin.
Okay.
Sorry. Loss of human connection in meetings. Okay, interesting. Yes. So, of course, if you're an employer, you have to readapt to the old way of doing things, and that can be challenging, isn't it? Yeah.
I just wanted to say if there's anyone who's struggling to join us on the Miro board, you can drop your comment or ideas in the chat. Okay.
Thank you so much, Nina. Cool. Perfect. Thanks, everyone, for your contribution. So we're going to pick one. Time is up. We're going to pick one. Who want to pick one? Linda, do you want to pick one that we can use now to go work on the... I want us to pick one of these trends or these factors that we identify here. And then we move to the next point and use it as a focal issue and try and unpack it and try and map the implication of it. We're going to use, yes. Go ahead.
I'm not
Or
quite
anybody
sure.
else. I just pick up. I mean, like, just randomly. Anybody who want to pick up something from here? Any factors that we've spoke about here that we can unpack? Come on, guys. It's just a matter of picking one, man. Okay, I'll pick that one. Okay.
Okay.
Who wrote that? Who wrote that time increase cost and time of commuting? Who wrote that? Okay. So we're going to move from there. We're going to move to this board here. That is called the futures wheel. The futures wheel is a tool. It's one of the tools that we use. I mean, I talk about it. We use it for mapping also, because here we're in the stage of mapping. We're not doing creating. So it's a creative mind map that is meant to generate a lot of different ideas about possibilities for the futures. The thing that we need to understand about this tool is just about the next question. It's really about, if you do this, what's going to happen next? That's the simple way of explaining it. So I picked up one and put it here at the center. The question that I'm going to ask you, if this happened, what's going to happen then next? So we're going to start mapping from this circle and going out. We'll be mapping what might happen next from the now, and what's that trend that we are mapping can lead into, and what might be the effect of that trend. So please join me again. We've got how many minutes? I think we can take a bit of time here, maybe 15 minutes. Yeah.
15 minutes, you said?
Yeah, 15 to, let's say 20 minutes. Is that cool, Yasmin, or you feel like it's going to be?
If you could detail the activity better so we can have a better process, that would be good.
Okay, is that a question? What did you say? Sorry?
Yes, please.
What did you say?
Yeah, just to repeat the process that people need to go through. That would be good.
Oh, okay. So we have the question here. So we selected one issue or one trend from the stuff that you have guys have identified as the factors to consider is contributing to the cost of work crisis, right? So we put some of the factors here or trends. So now we're going to map that trend further to try and see the implication of it. And we're gonna do the same thing the way we're doing. So by grabbing a sticky note, move to the first circle and post your ideas. Like, if this situation is happening now, what's gonna happen next? What is the implication of this situation next? What might happen, and what will that lead into? And what is the effect, basically? So we're just going out to try and map out the implication of that. The whole idea here is to think of ideas or context, or just really analyze the trend and how that can influence or can give us information so that we can be able to start thinking of alternative futures that we can explore as for organizations. Yeah. So we're just in the process of unpacking. I hope that is it's clear. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I will put then 15 minutes on the clock and we can then revise and see.
Yeah, we can revise if we see if people, if we need more time. Thank you. Yeah, like Yasmin said, you can always put your ideas here in the chat if you feel like you're struggling to input on the board. Feel free to also share your thoughts as you put your ideas, and because remember we say we're looking at the now and the next. So if this is happening now, what's going to happen next, and what it will lead into. So it will be good to, as you put your ideas, you can also feel free to unmute yourself and speak, so that other people that are seeing your ideas can get a sense of like where you're coming from. So that's the whole purpose of the exercise. Yeah, please feel free to do that.
Yeah,
Anybody want to share what they are seeing emerging?
yeah. For me, I think that when we have increased costs and time of commuting, I was actually thinking about this, adding other costs like including attire, including lunch money, all of those kind of things that increase the cost of going to work. And I see that when that happens, then there is increased financial stress on employees, because then it means that their salaries, they have to split their salaries to cater for the cost of going to work. And then that will lead to reduced workforce participation. It will also lead to reduced productivity and employee engagement, because now people are continually stressed about money, and then they will start thinking about demanding higher wages and benefits. Yeah, I also think that it can also lead to inequality, because when you look at the cost of coming to work, the cost of coming to work might be the same for everyone, but salaries are different. So then it means that the money that is left at employees' disposal, especially those ones who are earning lower salaries, the cost is higher for them, and then it causes a rise in inequality among employees. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Linda. That's the best way to just show how, like those effects are amplifying, and with that, it definitely gives you a different way of seeing things and approaching things, so that even the way you make decisions, your decision is informed based on those connections. Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
can share perspective as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
following these dark yellow stickies, with the increased cost of time on commuting, then I have here quality of life decreases for the ones who live further away from the workplace. And in some ways is related to the sticky that Amber added here. Evening activities like dance, sports, and so forth are harder to attend. So to create a balanced lifestyle is important not to just focus on work, but also have other activities like hobbies and spend time with family and just even resting. It's important to cater for these moments. So if you spend a lot of time commuting, then these other activities can be difficult to attend, or you can spend less time with your family. And therefore, that's my second sticky there, that can lead to increase in stress and mental health issues. And of course, that's a big mental health crisis that we have at the moment, right? Big difficulty, big challenge. So yeah, you stay in this loop of work and coming back home, and you don't have much time for anything else. And the third sticky is the decreasing quality of life generally, that you can't even rest, you can't even have time to think of other things. So you don't work really well because you're stressed, then your family gets the ripple effects of that, your friends and other relationships and so forth. So it's a big difficulty, especially as Linda was saying, for the people that work further, that live further away from the workplace, or who have less money and so forth. So the big complex challenge, I would say.
Absolutely complex. So you see, when I was talking about scanning from the point of impact, that's exactly what I meant. That's exactly, you're looking at trend from that perspective, like how it's creating more ripple effects. So that when you have to make a particular, when you have to think of scenarios to create, you put all that into perspective. Yeah. Thank you so much, Yasmin. Anyone else?
I think Ember has dropped off, so I just wanted to pick up. I think it's her who wrote about parents having to spend less time with their families. Yeah, I think that's one like effect that like traditionally had been ignored, but I think the new environment, especially after COVID and the lockdowns, made us realize how much we want to spend more time with our families. So I think now more and more it's becoming increasingly a bigger issue to think about when you're talking about going to work. People putting their families first more than before.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much, Linda. So yeah, that was, I understand that it's just a few of us, and this exercise it was just to introduce, just to give us that sense of how you can expand with this thinking. And obviously it's the few of us here in the room. I mean, like if we had a bigger room, we could have gone and expand and go on for. So yeah, that's the whole idea. So remember, just to kind of summarize, is the future is created the way we act at the present. Our action at the present determine the futures. And those actions, the way, if you want to see a future that's got multiple, an explorative future that's got different scenarios on what you can create, you should spend more time looking at those trends and how they emerge, draw the connections among them, get to identify and analyze them to the deeper level, as you go deeper, you get more sense of these things, and then your strategy can be shaped up in a way that is more explorative and that gives room to more futures and then scenario. There's different way of doing it. You can take findings from the explore phase, you map scenarios, and when you start to creating your future at the last stage now, you can either do forecasting or backcasting. Backcasting is really looking from the perspective of the scenarios that you have in the future and start coming back to look at the strategies that you have as an organization and how you can refine them. And the forecasting is now the opposite, where you work to form the strategies, looking at the scenarios that exist. So those are just some of the techniques. There are many tools that we can apply. As I said, this process, it's not a process that you can do in 1 hour or 30 minutes. It's really a process that's it's involved different stages, and you can really take your time by applying different tools, gather so much information, but more importantly, starting from a stage where you allow participants to free themselves from their previous belief or pre-existing perception that we have on the future, and then start working toward that's to explore. I mean, from environmental scanning, and then now starting to think of the different scenarios. So that's what I had for today. I'm going to hand over to Yasmin. I know we still have time, but we don't have to stay until late if we've covered most of the stuff. So I'm going to hand over to you, Yasmin. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Arsene, and thank you everyone for joining and for participating in the Miro board. I think that was very insightful, and you brought very, very good points, very different perspectives. So now we'll share my screen so we can finish off this session. Yeah, so the party continues. We have other sessions coming up, and the next one is going to happen on the 29th of October. And we're going to talk about the role of systemic leadership in addressing complex issues. So far in this year, we talked a lot about the external factors of the world, but this time we're going to start looking more inwards. And this is the topic that we're going to cover on the 29th. So here you have the link to our SVP to the session. And it's going to lead you directly to the website. Other ways that you can follow Riasa, here you have the website, the LinkedIn page where we keep very updated on the resources and what we're up to. So here's the link to the LinkedIn. And the Systems Futures community, this is where the members are and how we get each other updated on the work that we're doing or interesting topics that we're exploring and so forth. So make sure to check that out if you're not a member yet. And here is a quick feedback to how this session went. How did you find the session for you? Was it insightful? And so forth. So you can just select a dot here and drag to this scale, let's say, not good to great, and we can review afterwards. And also let us know more information. How can we improve our session? Would you recommend this workshop to others? And anything else that you'd like to share that you didn't have the opportunity to do so far. Okay. So that was it for today, Strategic Foresight Workshop. And see you on the 29th for us to talk about the individual, let's say, side of the complexity of a world and systems change. So that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining, and see you then. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.